The moment the door creaked open, every lie in the room went quiet. The wind pushed him inside like the land itself had sent him. Dust clung to his coat, his hat low over his eyes, his boots worn thin by miles that never ended. No one knew his name, but every life in that room would remember his shadow. The room smelled of sweat, whiskey, and fear pretending to be laughter. Cards slapped the table, coins clinked. A woman stood behind the bar, hands steady, eyes tired in a way sleep could not fix. She had learned how to smile without meaning it. Her name was Eliza. She had been smiling like that for 3 years. The town called the place a saloon. In truth, it was a waiting room for broken things. Men drank to forget the land had taken more than it gave. Women learned not to ask questions. And Eliza learned how to survive by becoming smaller every day. When the door opened, no one looked up at first. Then the room shifted. Something about the way the cowboy stood there, still, like he had nothing to prove, made the noise thin out. A gambler missed a card. A man laughed too loud, then stopped. The cowboy closed the door behind him and removed his hat. His eyes were calm. That was what unsettled them most. He walked to the bar and set a single coin down. "Water," he said. Eliza poured it without asking. Their eyes met for just a second, and she felt it, an awareness, sharp and uncomfortable. Not desire, not pity, recognition. He drank, slow and deliberate, like a man who had learned patience the hard way. At the far table, a man named Ketch leaned back in his chair. Everyone knew Ketch. He owned the saloon, owned the cards, owned the debts. Some said he owned Eliza too, though no paper said it aloud. Ketch smiled. "You passing through?" he asked. The cowboy set the cup down. "Aren't we all?" A few men chuckled. Ketch didn't. "You looking for work?" Ketch pressed. The cowboy glanced around the room. "Not that kind." The air tightened. Eliza felt it before anything happened. She always did. Living here had taught her how trouble breathed. Ketch stood and adjusted his coat. "Most men who walk in here," Ketch said, "leave lighter than they came." "Money or pride?" "Sometimes both." The cowboy nodded. "I've noticed." "And you?" Ketch asked. "What'll you leave behind?" The cowboy looked at Eliza again. "Depends," he said quietly. "What's being taken?" Silence hit the room like a dropped plate. Ketch laughed, sharp and humorless. "Careful," he warned. "You're talking about things you don't understand." The cowboy stepped closer, boots steady on the floor. "I understand plenty," he said. "I understand a woman who hasn't chosen to be here. I understand fear dressed up as agreement." Eliza's hands trembled. No one had ever said it out loud. Ketch's smile vanished. "You accusing me?" "I'm stating a fact," the cowboy replied. "You don't own what breathes." The first punch came fast. Ketch swung, fueled by pride and whiskey. The cowboy moved like he'd been waiting for it his whole life. The blow missed. A chair went over. Someone shouted. The fight was short, brutal, clean. When it ended, Ketch lay on the floor, gasping, his nose bleeding onto the boards. The cowboy stood over him, not angry. "Just finished. You'll let her walk," he said. "Tonight." Men shifted, unsure whose side the room was on now. The cowboy reached inside his coat and placed something on the bar. A folded paper. A deed. Eliza frowned. She recognized the seal. It was the saloon's land claim. "I won it off a man who cheats worse than you," the cowboy said. "Fair and square." Ketch stared at it, horror dawning. "You can't." "I can," the cowboy said. "And I am." He turned to Eliza. "You don't owe me," he said. "You don't have to come." But the door's open now. For real. Her chest ached. Freedom was a word people said lightly. Living it was heavier. "What if I stay?" she asked, testing the ground beneath her voice. "Then stay," he said. "But it'll be your choice." For the first time in years, the room felt too small for her. She untied the apron she wore like a chain and set it on the bar. Her legs shook as she walked toward the door. Ketch didn't stop her. Outside, the night was wide and cold and full of stars she'd forgotten existed. She stood there, unsure. "Why?" she finally asked. "Why do this?" The cowboy pulled his hat low against the wind. "Someone once walked past a door I couldn't open myself," he said. "I promised I wouldn't do that again." They left before dawn. Not together at first, just traveling the same direction. Eliza learned his name was Rowan, though he spoke it like it didn't belong to him anymore. They shared food, silence, miles. She learned he had buried more people than he could remember. Learned he didn't drink because it made the nights louder. Learned he fixed broken fences even when they weren't his. Trouble followed them once. Men who thought fear could be reclaimed. Rowan stood his ground. Eliza stood beside him. That was new. Weeks later, they reached a stretch of land where the river bent soft and the soil looked kind. "This is far enough," Rowan said. Eliza waited, heart loud. "For you, for me," he said. Then he met her eyes. "You can keep going." She didn't. They built something slow, honest. A place with a door that opened from the inside. Some nights were quiet, some were hard, but none were owned. Years later, travelers would stop by and ask how it started. Eliza would smile. Not the old one, but a real one, and say, "A cowboy walked through a door." She never told them the rest. But the land knew, and so did she.